Hello, welcome to The Perspective. I'm your host, Ahson Haqqani. Today we talk about two more important issues that are under discussion. First is the SCO. The SCO mood that was held in China recently, where they were unable to adopt the joint statement where Pakistan has condemned all forms of terrorism, all manifestations of terrorism. Secondly, we'll be talking more about something that is very important, that is the grave human rights violations, specifically when we talk about the children of Kashmir. Well, we first off start off with the SCO summit, where the SCO is a 10-nation Euro-Asian security and political group whose members also consist China, Russia, India, Iran and Pakistan. Addressing the session, the Defense Minister Khwaja Asif said that we condemned Israel's recent 12-day war against Iran, and he said that it is important for collective efforts to address evolving global and regional security challenges. He also said that Pakistan condemned the April terrorist attacks in occupied Kashmir in Pahalgam. We'll be talking about that as well, which left 26 people who died. And he said that we call upon all the states to hold these states responsible and actions to be accounted for who planned, financed and sponsored the terrorist attacks in the Jafar Express incident that was in Pakistan. And Asif not only he didn't name the country that was involved in it. He said that we have in our custody a serving naval commander, Kulbhushan Yadav, who confessed of financing, planning and perpetrating the multiple terrorist attacks in Pakistan. He further said that the Defense Minister highlighted Pakistan's continuing role in counter-terrorism, using ongoing operations against Tehreek-e-Taliban and Balochistan Liberation Army and the Islamic State as an example. The minister said that we welcome the SCO's efforts against the three evils. Now, he mentioned the three evils, naming terrorism, separatism and extremism, and emphasized the need to strengthen the cooperation in cybersecurity and anti-narcotics and counter-extremist ideologies. These are very important. Furthermore, the Defense Minister Khwaja Asif said that India faced diplomatic isolation in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting, where Pakistan was successful, achieved significant success. India has failed to link the Pahalgam incident, and we'll be talking about this more. In the studios, we've been joined by security analyst Shahryar. Welcome to the show, Shahryar. Then we've been joined by Ms. Farzana Yaqoob, former Minister AJK. She's joined us via telephone. And very soon we'll be joined by Dr. Jamil Ahmed Khan, the former ambassador. So we'll start off with Shahryar. Now, Shahryar, the SCO summit, very important. This time around, no consensus being given. Khwaja Mohammad Asif further says that, India's military escalation and the post-Pahalgam was met with a swift Pakistan response. That message did not, did the Operation Banana Monsoon send a message to the Indians? Was that the repercussion of what happened in the SCO?
So, yeah, that's a very good question. So, given the fact that when the time for the statement, joint statement came out from SCO, 9 out of 10 countries basically supported Pakistan's stance. So, when it comes to diplomatic isolation of India, it's not like the rest of the members isolated them. It was basically that India isolated itself. When it comes to this regional anti-terrorism structure, which is called RATS under the framework of SCO, all of these regional countries, which are 10, and this time around also Iran also joined this meeting as well. So when it comes to this, the whole structure of this framework is anti-terrorism and cooperation when it comes to regional security. So Pakistan is playing a very important role. Pakistan is the bulwark when it comes to the terrorists emanating from Afghanistan, from regional players as well, as mentioned by the Defense Minister, and Pakistan is playing a very constructive role and is on the front lines when it comes to at least countering 8 to 10 terror organizations. These terrorist organizations could be operating from neighboring countries and supported by regional players as well, as alluded by the Defense Minister. Now the discussion basically comes in on developing a joint front in basically countering these attacks from across the border, as India also, like mentioned, and Pakistan is saying the same thing. But when it came to the joint statement, Pakistan's perspective was incorporated, and they even included Balochistan and, as you remember, a very devastating terrorist incident that Pakistan went through, which was not even like denied by India. and they didn't even like
they didn't condemn it
at all.
Jafar Express.
Jafar Express. So that incident was also included, and the whole idea of terrorism in Balochistan was included in the joint statement, and that is something that India was not open to accepting. So this role that India is playing is of an obstructionist entity rather than an entity that believes in regional cooperation. So it's playing a role of more of a spoiler, and in that event it isolates itself in the regional setting.
Right.
So this is not like something that Pakistan did on its own. Diplomatic victory, yes, because India is like isolating itself and not like really playing a role as a regional cooperating player. Now, at the same time, China, Russia, Iran, the Central Asian republics, they are all represented in SCO. Now, if you look at the role of India, India is playing both sides of the field. India is part of SCO, India is part of BRICS, but India is also part of Quad. And everyone knows that Quad is basically a structure that is like there to basically counter China's rise.
Right.
So what exactly is like India trying to do? That is like something that is now evident to the regional players.
Whatever is India trying to do, it's not working for them on the diplomatic stage. We're going to move towards Farzana Yaqoob now. Ma'am Farzana, India's refusal to stand with Gaza on Iran as well at the SCO contradicts Pakistan's principled foreign policy. Does this help the position of Pakistan as a moral leader in the region?
Indeed. I think the best achievement that we can attribute post the events that have recently taken place, be it between India and Pakistan, as well as Iran and Israel, is that instead of calling Pakistan, or Pakistan itself calling a net security provider, now Pakistan is being looked at as a net stability provider. I think that is a huge success, not only for the defense forces, but also of the National Assembly, of all the parliamentarians who've gone out and spoken recently, as the defense minister has played an instrumental role in his own way of annoying India enough to make India step away, as the speaker before me said, rightly so, that India was, no one asked them to step away. India is doing it to themselves. Some of the reasons why India is doing this is because India thinks that it has, most probably, it believes that it has better and closer relationship with America. Under Trump's administration, it is not visibly like that, but we've seen that when it comes to America, what is being visibly shown seldom tends to be the reality. Look at how the Trump administration said that they will think about attacking Iran and then they will decide after 2 weeks, but then they attacked within 2 days. So we have to be extremely cautious when we look at how India and America are moving forward, and we also have to look at what kind of ammunition deals are taking place. We can see that India is moving ahead and it is really trying to buy as much as possible when it comes to the be it the fighter jets and memes apart, reality apart, but India is increasing the threshold of arms race, and Pakistan, thankfully, post the event has not only shown deterrence but also has clearly shown an upper hand in this whole scenario. And SCO, in this current scenario, SCO has actually turned out to be slightly better than United Nations. Because the Security Council has not really been able to pass even one resolution or one recognition of what is going on. It is always being vetoed. So SCO is starting to come up as an organization which has better systems to address the regional disparities, to address the regional terrorism that India is orchestrating within the whole region. It is not just Pakistan that is being impacted by Indian terrorist activities. It is not just Kashmir. But look at what has happened in Bangladesh and how clearly they have come out of the hegemonistic holds that India had. So Pakistan has proven itself that whatever Pakistan has been saying for years, for decades, this is not the first time that Pakistan has negated that it is not a terrorist sponsoring country. And Pakistan has proved it not only by its words, but by its actions as well.
Oh, well, the other side is a totally different story when you talk about state-sponsored terrorism. There is a report that recently Punjab and Sindh operations have been conducted. The operation Yalghar has been conducted by CTD Punjab, arrested 6 Pakistani nationals linked to RAW. They've included the mosques, the railway stations, especially during Muharram. They were the targets. And audio recordings from the Indian intelligence officers have also been recovered. Along with that, Indian officers named Major Ravindra and Inspector Singh. The explosives were delivered by Indian officers near the border, and the funding was routed via cryptocurrency and branchless banking. RAW is also funding the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan activities from Afghanistan for attacking the DG Khan and the Mia Wali regions. That is the report. Now, coming back to Shahryar. Shahryar, the defense minister, has also talked about the Kulbhushan Yadav incident and the recent state-sponsored terrorism that we've seen often from the Indian side, not majorly highlighted by the international media. Is Pakistan's security narrative gaining any recognition in the multilateral fora like the SCO?
So multilateral forums like SCO, when it comes to BRICS, when it comes to regional cooperation frameworks and networks, that's where like Pakistan's voice is heard and those concerns are taken as valid. Historically, that was the case. Now the president of the US also recognizes that Kashmir is the point on which Pakistan and India need to work on if there has to be some sort of like regional peace and cooperation or a regional cooperation framework to take place. Now Kashmir is a talking point. India tried its best to use like all sorts of influence, all sorts of like disinformation. Why this like very major report came out of the EU Disinformation Lab. That report like very blatantly highlighted the fake news network that the Indian government was running, and the various like fake organizations were there, and that were like kind of like suppressing Pakistan's narrative on Kashmir and human rights and basically putting Pakistan in a negative light. So you can imagine the amount of resources that the Indian government was basically using to suppress the voices of the Kashmiri people. But then again, credible human rights organizations like the Human Rights Watch, when it comes to various UN reports, especially a very devastating report came out in 2019, which basically talked about the Indian military's high-handedness in Kashmir, the cases of missing persons, and they were using pellet guns to blind the Kashmiris, especially children. Now, what's the whole fault of the children of Kashmiris? They can't like go to school. They don't have any freedom of movement. They can be made missing without like any recourse, any legal recourse whatsoever. So when it comes to these blatant human rights violation, now Pakistan is like raising its voice. And it's not just Pakistan, by the way. It's also like Canada and Western countries as well.
Even those the US, who've been affected by the Indian
previous Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, made a very public allegation with proof and proof of Indians' involvement of their intelligence agencies in conducting assassinations on foreign soil. If they can like be as blatant to do these and conduct these heinous activities in the West, in countries like Canada, countries like the US, which is one of their like main partners.
We're going to include Ambassador Jamil Ahmed Khan with us over here. Ambassador, you've heard what we've been talking about. It's the SCO that we're talking about today, and Pakistan has reaffirmed its commitment to fighting terrorism at the SCO. How do you assess the diplomatic stance of Pakistan and significance of India standing isolated at such a huge forum? Ambassador, are you with
once we issued, I said there is a sequence of the whole diplomatic maneuver which Pakistan has been doing since long, but basically once the conflict started and the first National Security Committee meeting once we convened, and 24th May was the day once the first statement was issued after the meeting. And all those points are within the international legal framework, and all those points are well measured, and it's totally according to our foreign policy. So from there, we established a narrative. And the Prime Minister, even in his speech later on, said that, okay, Pahalgam, that was the main triggering point. And then we said, okay, independent investigation, everyone. So that narrative was carried. And then accordingly, once we talked about the Interwater Treaty, and that is there in the joint statement issued after the National Security Committee meeting, that is also within that national framework, because the upper riparian and the lower riparian, there are a whole lot of international law, and there is a United Nations Security Council resolutions also on it, and the charter. So our narrative was well structured and well within the framework of the national legal system. And then it was well articulated by all our political as well as the diplomatic setup and the leadership. So that was carried out. And we're talking now about the SCO. SCO is a sequence of that. India tried its same rhetoric of narrative of the alleging Pakistan, the terrorism, the country which has its some of the bases, the infrastructure, terrorism emanating from Pakistan, Pahalgam, all these allegations. Mr. Rajnath started narrating that in his speech, and this is the reason he didn't even sign the SCO. I don't seem to remember that ever since SCO was formed in 2001, that ever it was the joint statement could not be issued because one of the members somehow the charter of the Security Council, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it doesn't dilate upon completely as to what happens if one member doesn't sign, but it has mentioned a couple of places in the charter that it has all the decision has to be with consensus, and consensus then that is taken that as if all the member state, that's the 10 member states of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization had to sign, and that's why it was not issued. That doesn't matter. Basically, the world, the our narrative has been echoed from this platform. Also, the entire world has and heard it, and that is inconsistency with what we have been showing right from the very beginning. Once India started the aggression on the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 7th and 8th of May on Pakistan, and the allegation from 22nd April onward. So the platform of 10 countries, China, Russia, and there could be another country. They could have objected that they could have sided with India, but none of the countries sided with India. So that means it was isolation. And again, if we correlate that with what maneuvering which we've been having, or what advocacy what we've been having by sending our parliamentary delegation under the leadership of Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, that also had a success. And why they had a success? One, that they articulated it quite well this time. Not that all the time these people, they articulated well, but this time they really articulated it quite well.
What are the consequences of repeated non-cooperation of the Indians, the non-cooperative behavior that prevails in every single forum we see against Pakistan and whoever is siding with Pakistan?
No, well, there's only one recourse available. There are about more than 13 Security Council resolutions, which are the international law, which is part of the international law. And if that is not complied with in the same United Nations Charter, there is a provision given in Chapter 7, and that is an implementing part of the Security Council resolution, which I would doubt at this stage, because India, despite its getting isolated, despite all these what is happening around, but the geopolitical landscape suggests, and what I feel, that if Pakistan should, as a matter of fact, move the resolution for the implementation, and even if it is vetoed by any country, including, rather more importantly, United States or France, Germany, the allies of France and UK, the allies of the United States, even if it's vetoed, no problem, but at least the very advocacy of our diplomacy would further be enhanced. So your answer to your question is that yes, there is a recourse available. And the second one is the moral, political, and the public pressure. And how it is done? It's through the public diplomacy, the way we did it through Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, through our political statements, what we've been making. And that public diplomacy should now be taken over, and the momentum should be maintained by our embassies, which they have started doing, I've heard. But then that momentum and that intensity of that advocacy should really continue. And if that happens, then public pressure combined with the traditional diplomacy. In fact, we, in from all our mission and embassies, we should keep, very intensely engaged with the host countries and keep informing them. Because diplomacy is name of the consistency and continuity. So with consistency, if we start advocating this narrative, what we have established, more importantly, after 24th of May, as I mentioned, that could really lead to the moral pressure, public pressure, legal pressure, and Chapter 7, Article 42, and other articles could be invoked.
Absolutely, Ambassador. We're going to move towards Ms. Farzana Yaqoob now. Farzana, you've seen what we've talking about. This might be the last question, the specific segment. How can Pakistan better showcase its support of the oppressed nations, like it always does, from Palestine to Kashmir, in contrast to India's selective silence at all the world forums?
Well, Pakistan can do that as it has just done. Send educated people on your diplomatic missions. The parliamentarians were well taken. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari performed so well. The whole team, the whole mission did exceptionally well, be it in America, in UK, in Brussels. So it is very important to learn from this, that when we send out people who know what they are talking about, Pakistan will always win its case. We've been weak in our narrative building, so we need to be persistent and we need to be consistent. And that is all that is required. Pakistani Foreign Office did phenomenally well, and this is what we see, that when the organizations are all working together, look at how well Pakistan performed. So congratulations to everyone who was involved in it, but please remember that this should be institutionalized. Decision making should not be random. It has to be a system, and we should come out with similar decisions whenever we have any kind of emergency, urgency, or tragedy. So these forms and these formats need to be institutionalized, and we must remember the successes, the victories that Pakistan is receiving it's like, it's been a long term in coming. It took a long time, but here we are. And let us not forget our past. Let us be very welcoming to our future, but we should be here in our present doing the right things that we are already doing.
Right, absolutely. We're going to move towards Shahryar Khan now. Shahryar, India tried to politicize the Pahalgam incident. What strategic steps should Pakistan take to prevent such moves in the future?
Well, Pakistan, first of all, condemned this attack.
Yes.
Very heinous attack. But if we want to look at terrorism, if you want to basically counter terrorism, or if you want to basically have a strategy which could be local or regional to basically counter such security incidents, then you basically have to go to the grassroots issues, the grassroots level issues, and you need to address those issues. This issue has been pending since the last 70 years. There are various UN Security Council resolutions on this issue, and if India unilaterally decides to abolish Article 370, to basically not adhere to international law, then India is not only isolating itself globally, it is also isolated the legitimate stakeholders of this issue, which are the Kashmiri people.
Yeah.
Now, if India wants to basically take this issue to the regional or international level, Pakistan is very ready. We have a forum of the United Nations. It's India that wanted to resolve this issue bilaterally and did not want any third party to take part in it. Now, if India wants to take it international, Pakistan will welcome it. Pakistan will basically also use the forum of the UN to remind the UN and member countries that there are pending UN resolutions enshrined in international law, in international human rights conventions, and this issue needs to be resolved. And other pending issues as well, the issue of Palestine.
Well, we've been doing a really good job. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari
has been on the forefront
Yeah.
and basically doing the moral uplifting of the whole global south. India wanted to basically lead and become the sole voice of the global south. But what did India do? India aligned itself geopolitically with countries that are basically engrossed in blatant human rights abuses. India is standing on the wrong side of history, and fortunately, I'm very proud of the way Pakistan has diplomatically played its role, a moral role, in bringing the plight of the people to the forefront.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Bilawal Bhutto Zardari and the diplomatic efforts that he's put in recently. Moral victory for Pakistan on all grounds?
Moral victory of Pakistan at the global stage. The way Bilawal Bhutto and his team presented Pakistan's case on various forums in the US, in Europe, in the UK. Look at the audience that this whole forum received. When Bilawal Bhutto and his team, when they were interacting with the international stakeholders, they were talking to the top of the top. You know, they were like talking to the Security Council, head of the Security Council in the UN. They were talking about to top diplomats. They were talking to the heads of various international multilateral agencies. And what was India doing at the same time? They were talking to their own audience.
Yeah.
So this whole Pahalgam incident that I see, and the way India reacted after that, one, it was like quite petty, if I do use that word, and secondly, it was only for their own internal audience.
Yeah.
Why would India and their delegation go and talk to their own people? This whole exercise was to bring that narrative to the international
And that was
community.
not sold well to the Indians itself.
They also questioned that up till now there is still no proof of Pakistan's involvement, and I don't know where those perpetrators went. So I don't understand, in a region where there are 500,000 soldiers, there's consistently a curfew 24/7.
Yeah.
There's no freedom of movement, and this is an area that is concentrated. The most concentrated military movement in an area is basically Indian occupied Kashmir.
Right.
So how did two people just commit this heinous act and they disappeared off the face of the earth? So I don't understand. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered, and these are not the questions Pakistan is raising. These are the questions that international community has raised. They have observed, and they have also observed India's conduct in the last 1 year or so, and a lot of fingers are being raised openly as well, as we saw the case of the Canadian Prime Minister, who basically pointed out very openly to Prime Minister Modi on what their
intelligence agencies have been doing.
So India's case is globally very weak. It's not on a very strong footing. And Pakistan has played a very morally just role in leading the whole case of the global south, and also of communities that are repressed globally.
Well, we move on to Dr. Jamil Ahmed Khan, the former ambassador. Ambassador, let's have a look at how Bilawal responded to all this after 10th of May along with his delegation. Diplomatic victory for Pakistan indeed. Do you think that in the long run the mediation would somehow find resolution for the Kashmir dispute?
Yeah, well, that's what the most powerful president of the most powerful country has already indicated, and we are quite open to it. We never try to refrain from it. In fact, mediation, and we've been always ready, but with the equal terms and with mutual interest. India, if it starts thrusting on any other nation, including Pakistan, obviously, in the entire region, they could suppress other nations. But once they turned their guns towards Pakistan, they saw what happened to them. So now I think is the time that India would also think. And now that the India feels that their narrative is now, previously they were able to really make some resonance, but now they know that how isolated they are getting. And you saw the multilateral platform, which was SCO. You saw that our delegation led by Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, how best and how articulated they were, and the level of engagements they had, and the level of coverage. In fact, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari was the right person from the entire house, if you see, because he has been living abroad for whatever reasons, and he understands, he has the legacy from his grandfather and from his mother and his own grooming. I've seen him personally while he was a young person of 20, 23 years while I was posted in UAE. Once I took the opportunity that he was a son of Benazir Bhutto, and there was a foreign minister of UK who happened to be visiting the UAE, and I just got informally in touch with UAE, the UK ambassador in UAE, and somehow that materialized. And our Bhutto Zardari, he was in jeans. He came for some other purpose to my mission, my embassy, and I told him that these are the 17 points I've written for you, and your cup of tea is arranged with the foreign minister. And then he mentioned that, I didn't know. I said, well, while you were traveling from Dubai to, so the kind of performance he showed at that time, those 17 points, and I said, well, that was his first exposure. And I said that if you find any difficulty, just turn your face to me and I tell you now, out of 17, 16 points he attempted so well and so impressive. From that day onward, I could see that potential. And now that he had gone to the world, and while he was foreign minister, it could only further augment what I had thought at that time. So bottom line is, he represented it quite well. He had that potential while he was studying, and later on he proved that once he became as a foreign minister, and now once he led that delegation the way he's articulated, whether it was the Indus Water Treaty or the Kashmir matter or the aggression of India, or what had happened on the 7th and 6th, 7th and 8th. So all these points, and see the kind of change in attitude in some of the countries where Pakistani passport was not that valued. Now our people, once they are going there, they see the attitude, change of attitude in so many countries, because now they have seen, one, that our diplomatic approach, and two, that our kinetic strength, which we showed, and with what maturity we showed, and that all was articulated. As I was saying in the earlier segment, part of the discussion, that we now need to really keep this momentum. A leader of the caliber of Bilawal Bhutto has done his job, right? We can't really keep sending him every day, everywhere. So all our mission and our ambassadors are quite capable and competent to handle that. They should be provided all the right materials and the right mechanism for the feedback to the Foreign Office. For example, one of the mechanism is for the public diplomacy, that whatever our embassies and missions are doing, the press coverage clipping should be sent to the Foreign Office on daily basis as to how we are further augmenting the same narrative, and what we have been telling to the world. We are deployed in all the 193 countries. Our physical mission, or we are accredited, so we are presented everywhere. So the world opinion is very important now, because now this is the time. Once India is under pressure, they know that what their narrative is, and subsequently what we can see at various platforms, what we can notice with the some of the statements from the White House and some of the statements from the State Department, see the change. And we should be able to, the way we are presenting our matter. You see, in the past also, they tried. For example, in 2021, we had submitted 131 pages dossier. And I have been raising the point in so many points, including perhaps your point, the PTV World, that was the absolutely perfect thing. And we articulated it, we compiled all the data, and we have submitted it. But there has to be consistency. Only giving a complete well-minded 131 pages the report to Secretary General was not sufficient. It had to be then further supported by human rights reports, by Amnesty International report, by Secretary General report. What we are discussing here, pellet guns, and what we are discussing here about Kashmir, what we are discussing about the violation by India. About the international law, all these things are already been reported by Human Rights Council. Commissioner of Human Rights Council. So this 131 pages report, perhaps we did not, rather, I'm sure we did not really maintain the momentum of it, and we did not do the way this time the government has done, because we can see the consistency. We can see the consistency from the day one and post Palgam. I'm just talking about post Palgam, whatever was happening, whatever India was trying to do, every time we were able to successfully bring our counter narrative, which was transparent, which was based on the facts, and that was really quite accepted in the world, as we can see. And one of the proof of that, what we are saying, is that at Palbama time, we had some criticism, some of the members of the United Nations, but this time you would not see any criticism from any country except India. So that is by itself a testimony of what argument I have made for your viewer. So if we continue with that, and then do not resort to the way that we've been doing it, that one report and then we just sit tight in the offices that, okay, we have done our job. As I was saying, that the foreign policy, if you want to propel that, if you want to really make sure that the world knows about what you know and what you want to really let the world know, and what are the issues which is confronting a region which is between the two nuclear neighbors, and what consequences it has, the way it has been done this time, then in that case, yes, the world is gets conscious of it, and then you start getting the response accordingly. So that is how we are done. Who doesn't know that there is a whole, very volumetric report available with United Nations? That the Secretary General report, which our permanent representative ambassador Asim Iftikhar is presented yesterday. That look, the way Indians, what they are doing, while he was describing about in his deliberation yesterday, and what he was describing in the Security Council 15-member committee.
Exactly. Taking from that, Ambassador, we will talk about what we said as a country and represented the United Nations Security Council resolutions as well for the Kashmir dispute. Farzana Yaqoob is with us. She's the former AJK minister as well. A relevant question to you, Farzana. India's brutal crackdown in occupied Kashmir, and this time around particularly on the children and the students, rarely gains any global attention. This time around, Pakistan has significantly highlighted in the United Nations. Do you think that United Nations will possibly have a solution to the Kashmiri atrocities?
I would hate to sound like a naysayer, but we've been here. There have been multiple reports which have highlighted all the abuses that are taking place in the Indian occupied Kashmir. And, we have yet to see any kind of respite. United Nations has, of course, been very vocal. They have been in their own mechanism. They have been documenting the abuses that are taking place in Indian occupied Kashmir, be it Amnesty International, be it Human Rights Watch. Everyone has documented the abuses that are taking place in Indian occupied Kashmir. But then when we look at our Kashmiris in Indian occupied Kashmir, what is clear is that there has been no relief. Has India decreased its abuses? No, not at all. It is actually becoming even more blatant. India copies Israel's tactics. India uses Indian occupied Kashmir as a test lab to check what kind of atrocities it can met out to the minorities throughout India. They first check it in Kashmir, and when they see, when they inflict pain on our Kashmiris, it is then that they're like, they're satisfied, and then they take it forward to rest of the Indian minority, particularly when it comes to children. This is not new. Whenever India has wanted to punish the Muslim minorities, or when it has wanted to annoy Pakistan, what has India done? It has attacked Kashmiri. So it takes Kashmiris, even though India does not admit or accept it, but India mets out the kind of activities on them, the kinds of abuses that India would want to do to Pakistanis. When Kashmiris, these students, these youngsters. They're very passionate about cricket. If we are happy about Pakistan's performance, India abuses us. These kids are removed from these universities. This has been happening for a very long time. This is nothing new. But what is new is the increase in it. Our brilliant Kashmiris who take excellent marks in their exams, they are, their opportunity to get government jobs have been decreased. They're actually.
Right. Point taken. The Indian hypocrisy continues. We've moved to Shahryar Khan now. Shahryar, while India condemns terrorism in all forms and manifestations itself, then it continues with the human rights violations in Kashmir. Now, especially against the children. How should Pakistan integrate these facts into strategic communication?
So Pakistan very recently has now become the voice of the voiceless, playing a very positive diplomatic role, and also raising a very moral debate into all international human rights organizations and multilateral forums as well. Now I agree with the Ambassador Saab that there is need for consistency, and there is also, you have to make sure that there is no complacency. If you have a few diplomatic wins and you don't work to basically lead that to something more substantial, then all of this effort would be gone to waste. So there is a need for integrated communications from all various stakeholders from the government, various ministries that are involved in developing a narrative, in taking Pakistan's voice forward in the international fora as well. Locally, we know what the issues are. In the region as well, the regional players are aligned with Pakistan. When it comes to the whole debate of regional cooperation and integration, SCO is on Pakistan's side. That was very clearly evident. 9 out of the 10 countries basically went with Pakistan's narrative, and India was the sole country that diplomatically isolated itself by aligning itself not with the joint resolution that came out of SCO. Now Pakistan needs to take this case internationally. Internationally, the whole dynamics are a bit different. Now the morality has taken a back seat, and now a lot of decisions are made on brute force or economic compulsions. Pakistan needs to raise its voice on all international fora and basically bring the debate back to international law, bring the debate back to international human rights conventions and the rules-based order that everyone keeps on talking about. I don't think a lot of countries are abiding by it. Pakistan has to bring everyone on the same page and make sure that all of these international human rights conventions are respected and taken forward to in letter and spirit.
Absolutely, and Pakistan is doing all that it can through the diplomatic efforts. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Jamil Ahmed Khan, former ambassador, Shahryar Khan, security analyst, and Farzana Yaqoob, former minister for AJK. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Perspective today. It's goodbye for now.